Yeah. The shopping continues for the Rangers as they're at the winter meetings, and it's that time of year. It's the time to shop. Right now, all Americans are doing about the same thing at this point. Hi there, welcome to the DLLS Rangers podcast. John Radigan here, Jeff Wilson there, and it's been an active day there. Jeff, not so much for the Rangers as far as big news goes, but we'll get to all the other big news coming a little later on. The Rangers did actually announce soon after we left the air yesterday. We learned that they had added, utility infielder from San Diego in Tyler Wade, and so they're making moves. They're addressing things that need to be addressed.
I guess so. It's interesting that you look around their roster. Now, Tyler Wade, this is a minor league deal. Right. He didn't get a major league contract. I think that's important for people to understand.
Yeah, he got an invite to spring training, but yeah.
Yeah, this is just a flyer, and maybe it is a precursor of something else to come. Who knows? But you look around at the Rangers and what potentially they're going to do with Josh Smith at second base. Well, he's your backup shortstop too. Do you want your backup shortstop to be your starting second baseman? Let's say. So Tyler Wade, he can play a lot of different positions. He's super, super fast. I think probably his biggest claim to fame is that he dated Alex Earl, who's like this TikTok star, and who just broke up with her boyfriend Braxton Berrios. So if you're a fan of her, hopefully Tyler can rekindle some things, and she'll be hanging around spring training. And he's useful. He can run. I think that's his biggest tool. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's nothing big. The bigger news I thought was that they did finally let everybody know that the coaching staff is complete with Eric Dorton, who was a minor league hitting coordinator. He's going to be the third guy with Justin Geely and Alex Cintrone. Young guys, the young guys that the Rangers are going to have to utilize. He's one of them. So, or he knows them, and anybody who comes up, he knows them. He's had their hands on them. So, kind of in the same vein that Jordan Teagues last year knew all these young guys, and will know them again now that he's the pitching coach.
Yeah, and Eric's been in the organization for some 7 years and at various different levels, and he's progressed through the organization, and he is the final member to the Skip Schumacher staff. I saw conflicting reports, Jeff, and I don't think this really matters, but it was reported differently by two different beat reporters. The order, right, whether Veely is the main man and Cintron behind him, and of course then Dorton behind him. How do you remember hearing or seeing that? Is there a pecking order between Veely and Cintrone, or are they just sort of hitting coaches?
I think as I recall it, and that's kind of the Chris Young and this is back when the coaching staff was announced, was like, well, they're a team, all this stuff. But when we spoke to Skip Schumacher at the time, he made it sound like it's Justin Veely is the guy, and Skip said, in fact, that Justin hasn't had a chance to show off all he can do, and now he's going to get that chance. Meaning, all right, this guy's going to be the head of the hitting program. Now, it may be that he's more of the biometrics guy and understanding the body and the swing guy, and then maybe Alex Cintrone is more the Brett Boone approach guy, if you will. But the fact of the matter is that I think, just looking at the titles and just remembering what Skip Schumacher said a month ago, that it's going to be Justin Veely. But again, they consider this a team. But if you look, it just feels like Justin Veely's the guy. He's the holdover. He's the one who's returned and has probably the most working knowledge with
Sure.
this group.
Yeah, and when I will say this: when I think of those Astros teams, and Cintron was such a big part of them, and I think for a couple of those years they led all of Major League Baseball and OPS and things like that. So he's obviously got some skins on the wall, and he's got some accomplishments. Those teams, though, Jeff, were so offensively talented. Um, I don't think of them as one of those teams that is or sort of played like the Rangers are hoping this team does offensively. Moving runners over. Like in Boone sort of mode, if you will.
Yeah, but they did always seem to have guys on base, the Astros. So when they did get their ball in the gap or ball over the fence, it was a painful home run,
Right.
or double multiple runs seemed to score. Yeah, they put a lot of pressure on opposing pitchers. That's what that team did, and at times there wasn't much of a chance for a pitcher to take a deep breath and be like, okay, I've got this guy. I can relax a little bit. Even that darn Martin Maldonado, who was not hitting his body weight, he still managed to hit a ball out. So
Yeah.
they were good, but a component to playing small ball and giving what the pitcher's giving you that day and using the opposite field and hitting your way on base. You still have to have guys on base to score runs. So the on base component that the Astros had, maybe that's something that Cintron can bring with them.
Yeah, and so I know, and we're going to talk more in the next segment about some of the specifics from what you talked with CY about right after the show. In fact, you had to jump out just a little early to go catch up with CY yesterday. But I know we've got a quote about what he was, suggesting this team is doing during the winter meetings. We all know, we know so well, we've seen it happen too many times that not a lot is necessarily done there, but the groundwork is laid there. And it sounds like that's sort of what is happening right now with the Rangers, according to what CY told you.
Yeah, and a lot has been happening since the start of the offseason and the GM meetings. Kyle Schwarber signed today. They didn't just show up yesterday and get a deal done. I mean, this has been going on for a couple of weeks. Um, so the Rangers are hoping to get something across the finish line. Something new might develop, but they're also waiting on the market in a lot of cases. Not a ton of setup guys have gone off the board. Not a ton of starting pitching's moves. No catcher's ever really done anything. So the areas that the Rangers are trying to address, the markets really haven't started to pick up. It could happen, it could happen right away. And at that point they've got to act fast and do something. But it sounded like yesterday talking to him, because the Tyler Wade thing came out right before we got in there, and so that was kind of like, hey, are you guys okay to announce that? Talk about it, and then it was like, is there anything else? And CY kind of sighed, like, yeah, no, that's all we got for you today, and maybe a little, I don't know, I want to say it sounded frustrated, but it was kind of maybe they've run into some high prices or something. But he also did say, and I put that quote in the rundown, John, that you know that this might be all we do this week. It all depends on the timing and when the market moves in. So it sounds like they have a couple things in the hopper, and that could go one way or the other. Um, but they're just waiting for the dam to break, I guess. Of course, they could be the ones that break the dam.
Sure, and we're going to talk a lot more about the Schwarber thing, but that could have an effect on the catching situation, right? I still think the Rangers are probably out of the price range for JT Realmuto, but it could have an effect. But yeah, maybe that is one of them. It probably, I mean, I shouldn't say probably, it's certainly one of the markets they're waiting for. We know they need a catcher, right? That's an obvious need. And really nothing's happened yet on that catcher market. I'm with you. What the hell? Go ahead and set it, right? You don't need to wait for somebody on this one. But when you are sort of on a budget, I guess you'd like to wait and see what try and get the best deal you can possibly get. So it's very interesting that as much as CY always focuses on pitching, the needs of this team have dictated a very different early approach to the offseason, right? It has all been about, improving that offense, which is, again, an obvious thing, right? It was so bad the last year and the year before. That is what needed to happen, and that's what's essentially still happening. And I still think we'll probably hear more about that catcher and maybe that other right-handed bat that they could use even before we start to hear about, pitching.
Yeah, again, the Rangers signed Will Smith on March 1st of 2023, and he was their closer in the first half of the season. They signed Luke Jackson last year in middle February. So these things, they didn't sign Patrick Corbin until March 21st last year.
Right.
And he didn't even go to spring training.
No.
He just met the team in Texas. So, there are guys who and guys who could impact this team who won't be signed until February, especially when the Rangers are trying to shop at the level they're always been shopping at for relief help. And that came up a little bit yesterday. The reference was made to Joe Nathan 1,000 years ago, and how John Daniels gave him one, and that was it. And it seems like that's that philosophy and how to put together bullpens has been something that Chris Young liked and brought with him. And he kind of downplayed it and said, "Well, it depends on the pitcher and all of that stuff." So are you? What opportunities for a closer would you look at? But then he also is like, "Hey, guys just pop." And they pop, but it's for like a year, like we talked about, with Sean Tolson and Sam Dyson. But I don't think that they're going to play there, it's just that one's probably going to be the last one to come together. The bullpen, because they have to sign so many of them too.
Yeah, agreed. They've got a few to sign, and they really just they proved last year, and eventually it may backfire. But they proved last year that you can sign guys late and sign guys for a little and bet on the upside of guys who had coming off a bad year, and it can turn out very well. And it certainly did for that Rangers bullpen last year. So, in that regard, I suppose if the process ain't broke, you don't fix it, right? The process worked last year. You probably try it again this year. You roll it back out there. And especially if you're not getting into this high-priced closer market, which again, we'll talk more about Edwin Diaz later in the show, but that's become a pretty expensive market now, both with Devin Williams and with Edwin Diaz. I mean, they both got significant contracts. So it's not the closer's not for the budget conscious team anymore. So we've got lots more coming up on the program. Lots of news about the WBC, including what CY told Jeff and the rest of the guys yesterday about a couple of Rangers players and the World Baseball Congress. We'll talk about all of that and more. Coming up next, it's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Hey, did you ever have one of those experiences where you lost a pair of your favorite sunglasses, maybe left them on the counter at a gas station and drove 200 miles before you realized they're gone, or left them in a golf cart? That's happened to me. Mysteriously, they couldn't find my sunglasses when I went back. Or the worst for me, I went to the beach with a brand new pair of sunglasses that I'd never had, never worn, never really even enjoyed yet. Jumped in the water, wave hits me, knocks the shades away. I'm like, no problem, I'll just grab it. The undertow had different ideas. Took them out to sea, and I never was able to see them again. Shady Rays has you covered if that happens to you. They'll replace your sunglasses, believe it or not, if something like that happens to you. Plus, they're great quality sunglasses, tons of styles, tons of colors. You need to go to shadyrays.com and use the code DLLS35 to get 35% off your Shady Rays sunglasses. I'll tell you where else you need to go is Qualys Roofing. Like Jeff was saying the other day on the show, a hailstorm is going to happen this spring for sure, if not before then. So be prepared by knowing that Qualys Roofing is the place to call. And in fact, it wouldn't hurt you to get a preemptive Qualys Roofing roof inspection. If you do that, you don't completely free, and you get a free DLLS t-shirt just for having them come out. They inspect your roof. They might even say, no problem, you don't have any hail damage, but they'll have a base to know that when there is hail damage, which is inevitable, they will know how to respond and how best to handle that, especially with the insurance company, I should say. They have 700 five-star reviews. Go to Qualys Roofing. They're local and they're legendary. QualisRoofingGC.com to get your new roof. Yeah, we are big fans of all of our sponsors, and those are two that brought this show today to you. So we thank them. We thank you for hanging out with us, chat along with us as you always do. We always enjoy that. WBC-wise, Jeff, the CY has said that the two Rangers pitchers who everybody would love to see wearing the red, white, and blue, Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi, neither one will be a part of the WBC next year.
Yeah, there was a big WBC press availability, if you will, this morning. The skipper was all over it, and Michael Hill, who's the head honcho there at USA Baseball, and Mark DeRosa, the manager. Hill talked about, they're obviously they're great pitchers, but the injuries, they were basically told no. So, and that's not surprising. Maybe Eovaldi, if he'd gotten through last season healthy, didn't have the hernia surgery, because these guys who pitch in the WBC, they start ramping up earlier, and I think Nate is just beginning his throwing program, really. And there's some guys who never stop throwing. They'll still play catch a couple times a week, but like getting onto a mound and all that stuff. It just starts in earnest a little sooner for the WBC guys. So that's not surprising at all. And then I was trying to think, are there any Rangers who might get added? Maybe Jack Leiter. I don't know that it's his time yet, but you're going to have pitchers. You're going to have a wish list. Team USA is going to have a wish list and be like, okay, I want him, and him, and then him, and him say no. Right. So you go down. Let's remember, and this isn't a bad thing, because at the time he was going really, really well. But Derek Holland pitched for Team USA at one point. And I don't think that when, team fans were putting together the Team USA roster, that Derek Holland was at the top of the list, still a good pitcher, but, they probably had some guys who are like, no, we're going to pass. Position player wise, they're pretty loaded up at shortstop, so I don't think they need, I'm sure they would love to have Corey Seager, but if he's not, if Bobby Witt's on the team and Gunnar Henderson's on the team and then Kyle Schwarber's on the team at DH, not a lot of opportunity necessarily for Corey to play to the level he would want to play if he were to be on that team. And he didn't finish last year completely healthy, and he needs to stay healthy. That's critical to the Rangers this year. Maybe Marcus Semien, not a current Ranger, but who are the best American second baseman out there? Certainly something to consider, at least. And then relievers, well, the Rangers don't have any, so I don't really know that that's a concern.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. So it's and that the WBC is a wonderful thing. Jeff and I both really like it, and I think a lot of fans do. And we'll, it feels like the American team is pretty well loaded already. But we heard Buck Showalter just the other day on the show, if you were watching, talking about 2023 when he was the manager of the Mets and Edwin Diaz got hurt in that tournament, which is in March, and he was out for the year. And Showalter said that was it. We knew right then our year was done. We thought at the time, as did some of our listeners and the people in the chat there, thought that might have been a little Debbie drama, on Showalter's part. Like that might be a little bit of an overstatement that one guy's going to make or break the whole season. But he said it. We didn't. And I think, and I go back to like Olympic play with when Mark Cuban, didn't want Dirk Nowitzki and some of his other international players playing in the Olympics because, again, they had a long run in the playoffs and then the Olympics, and then they start in September. They just they don't have an off season, no time to rest or recuperate. So there is definitely a thought when you have a lot of money invested in players, Jeff, that it doesn't necessarily behoove you to allow them or, to at least bless their playing in international tournaments like that.
Yeah, well, but on the flip side, it probably wouldn't go over real well with the player, right? I mean, and future players.
Right.
If you have a guy who wants to play for Team USA, if you're Chris Young and he, maybe can't play this year, but the next time around, he's like, hey, I'm going to play in this thing.
Yeah.
If they were to not allow somebody to play, it might turn them off, and
Sure.
the Olympics are not WBC, they're way better. So, it'd be a very hard sell, I think, if you're a player who's really good and you're going to play for Team USA at some point. But man, that team that's talking to me and offering me all this money, they didn't let so-and-so play last time in the Olympics or the WBC. Oh, I don't know if I can play there. I mean, I just think it's, and then, it probably doesn't look good with the rest of the players.
Sure.
Let them do what they want to do.
Yeah, it's definitely a consideration for players. And by the way, Dirk always played for Team Germany, and I mean, you can say what you want over here, Mark. This is my country, right? If I have the opportunity to represent my country, I'm representing my country. And that loyalty. And it's the same with hockey players in the Olympics, and that is mid-season. And certainly guys could get hurt during that. But they're playing for Team Canada or Team Finland or Team USA if they have the opportunity. It's an honor, and guys definitely want to do that if they can. And it does go back and forth some on whether or not the professionals are going to be in any or all of those games. So it's an interesting conundrum for owners, especially when they've got these huge investments. So, all right. So other things that CY talked about yesterday, Jeff, when you guys had your gathering with him, obviously included that second base position, which I know was also something that Skip talked a lot about. Any variance in sort of the tone or the approach from the two?
No, this one seems to be kind of lockstep. Josh Smith. I mean, that was it. And they've had the conversation with them about not fading down the stretch, being a player from game 1 to 162. It was interesting as we continued to talk to him about it. He said, Josh was motivated to do that. And he kind of went and said, we should have a lot of guys that are motivated to do better than they did last season. And he basically, he said, without saying it, everybody sucked last year.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be better.
Yeah.
and that's kind of the truth, and various things that happened, like Josh Young and Jake Berger both getting sent down to the minor leagues at one point. Josh Smith flailing away and they're late in the year and being unable to get out of it. we all know. I mean, but it's true, and we've said it again, and nobody likes to hear it. The internal improvement thing can't remake the whole roster, and but every team needs their guys to be better. This isn't just a Rangers thing,
No,
You know,
no, no.
Christian Walker needs to have a better year for the Astros, for
Sure.
instance.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
It was weird. It was weird that, like, you could even say, and again, it's hard to say Corey Seager had a bad year, but you could even say, he could be a lot better. We've seen him
yeah,
be better, right? So it's weird that the Rangers had like a whole team full of guys, evidenced by no, not much play in the postseason awards, not much play in even the All-Star vote, right? And there's a whole team full of guys who kind of had a bad year.
yeah. There's no doubt about it. I mean, at one point, 9 guys were in a slump.
Right,
I mean,
right.
that's
What's
you know
that?
that's just the way it was. And
Yeah,
but they all have things they can work on, and then um, Wyatt Langford needs to be better with 2 strikes. I mean,
yeah,
that's something. That's one thing. All right. You know, Berger and Young need to not get themselves out so much. They need to have a little more discipline there. Um, they Josh Smith could probably be better against lefties. He took a step back against them this year. So there are a lot of guys, and it was interesting though that Brandon Nimmo was brought up and how he had conquered his demons against left-handers through a few years of work and staying with it, and there's hope that Evan Carter can look to that, or Josh Smith, or any lefty hitter that struggles against lefties,
yeah.
because Brandon Nimmo is their the term platoon neutral, meaning he's an everyday player. Just say
Yep,
everyday player,
yep,
please.
yep.
Stop
And
making up
and
these terms.
it was it CY that brought up that the Nimmo overcoming
Yeah,
that? Did he?
yeah,
Yeah, he brought that up. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And Nimmo would talk to us about it as
yeah. I
Jared
remember that.
talked
Yeah,
about when he was on the show, and it's all possible, but again, it's not just, you're not going to remake the roster, and you can add to it, and you can subtract from it, and let's keep in mind, when we're talking about are the Rangers going to make any big moves this offseason, they made, until today, they had made the move of the offseason,
yeah,
right? The
absolutely.
Nimmo Simeon
Blockbuster.
trade was
Yep,
a big deal,
blockbuster.
and it is a really big deal across baseball. So they've made a big move already. Um, and now from a free agency standpoint, they haven't. But if you're lumping in trades into your roster overhaul every offseason, the Rangers have made the trade of the offseason so far.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And we believe, we're pretty sure it's going to pay some dividends. It sure looks like it will. Certainly from hopefully from a team chemistry standpoint, as well as just a player for player thing. There were options there at second base, as we've talked about, Josh Smith, and they needed help if Adolis Garcia wasn't going to be back, which he's not. They needed help in the outfield. So they've gotten that, and Brendan Nimmo should provide both of those things for the Rangers. So yeah, that's really good. But what about the outfield? I know that Skip and our skipper, the skipper was out, taping lots of the press conference yesterday, and sent out some clips where Skip said, look, we know Wyatt Langford can play center field, and talked about all that. And we talked about that yesterday. But what is CY's sort of thought? What are his thoughts about the outfield?
Yeah, again, he concurred, and basically, I guess their metrics show that um, Langford and Evan Carter are basically the same in
Hmm,
center field.
hmm.
So both very, very good. And that was a little surprising, I thought.
Sure.
But anyway, I just think that, if Evan Carter's not healthy, or if he can't hit lefties or whatever, I could see a scenario where Wyatt Langford plays most of his games in center field.
Could you see a scenario where Evan Carter's the left fielder and Wyatt Langford's the center fielder.
Sure. When you talk about the wear and tear on a body, that's certainly a possibility, I would think, to help save Evan and keep him healthy if they think that's the best. Yeah, definitely possible.
And we've talked about the wear and tear that center field can cause on a potential superstar player, which we think Wyatt Langford is. And I guess we should probably carry this over. Let's talk more about that and the center field situation, as well as get back into other big news in baseball from today at the winter meetings. It's all coming next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
Hey, John, I'm going to let you handle the ads. I need to get something real quick.
No problem. We got the Supporters Club, and that is a great opportunity for you. It's a chance to get behind-the-scenes stuff that isn't available to just everybody who watches DLLS. And in fact, the skipper, Ben, when he's at the winter meetings with Jeff, is taking care of a behind-the-scenes look at the winter meetings. So you absolutely don't want to miss that. You can get it for so cheap, $5 or $15 on that Supporters Club, and you'll be so glad you got it. True sicko level stuff. You get all the content that we provide, and also that our Cowboys and our Stars and our Mavs shows provide. There's one of those, at least one per week, as well as all those emojis, and they're all available to you at a low, low price. So join that Supporters Club and just take your support of DLLS to the next level. We also want to tell you about our newsletter, which is a fantastic free opportunity for you. The newsletter is just fantastic because it's free and it has lots of information. Today, Ali was writing about, and he's got stories, and so does Clarence about this behind the paywall too. But there was a quickie about the fact that the George Pickens thing was handled right, and Shotty talked about the fact that they had a meeting, and George Pickens just told him, I had a bad game, coach. That's it. I had a bad game. His effort was questioned by somebody on Richard Sherman, I think, on social media. All addressed, all taken care of. Let's see how George Pickens responds. He had some, upstairs problems in Pittsburgh. So that's one of the reasons people are a little worried about this, but Shotty's not. Anyway, that's all there in the newsletter, as well as the 25 game mark of the Mavs and the Stars doing all the crazy things that they've been doing and playing so well. And then, of course, there was stuff in there about the Rangers too. That's what you get in the newsletter for free. So go to our website, alldlls.com, scroll down to the bottom, and you will see an easy place to enter your email and join the newsletter, subscribe to the newsletter, I should say, and it'll come to your email inbox every day, and you'll have all this information for nothing. All right, so we've got other things to talk about with regard to what's happening at the winter meetings. You've all seen it. Jeff's referenced it briefly. We'll get back into center field when he comes back in just a second. But the big news, I think, is probably the biggest so far, is that Kyle Schwarber is staying in Philadelphia. And I told you a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, that I had touched base with some Philly people, and they were saying just that. That 1 and 1A for the Philadelphia Phillies this offseason were Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto. They called them the heart and soul of that Phillies team. So they've gotten the heart back in Kyle Schwarber, and it wasn't like just a courtesy by Kyle Schwarber to sign with the Phillies. They made the best offer. 5 for 150, Jeff. He's getting $30 million a year, and a lot of teams were offering 4, and the Phillies just stepped up to the plate. I think they proved how much they wanted him.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of money for a DH, but
yeah,
like you said, he's also the heart. So his position is DH/heart. And I suppose if some worst games are worse, he's played the outfield before. Hell, he was a catcher. He probably played first base. But but you look at the on base and you look at the power, and you don't want to see this guy coming up in the ninth inning, and what a the average isn't going to be there very often. There's going to be a ton of strikeouts, but what he did for that team and what he's done the last 3 or 4 years since they got him, hard to see. It's hard to see the Phillies replacing that anytime soon.
Yeah, and it begs the question, and I mentioned, I'm not sure if you were hearing before you came back on, but I mentioned the people I spoke with in Philadelphia who were saying there are two priorities, Schwarber and Real Muto for the Phillies to get re-signed because they were the heart and soul, and so it begs the question, though, maybe they had to pay a little more money for Schwarber than they wanted to, than they thought they would. I don't think they worry too much about money, but does that change their approach, their feeling about Real Muto, and or allow the Rangers maybe to be more involved in the possibility of getting him?
Yeah, I could see that, if they are like, all right, we've got one big offseason move. We're gonna do it here, and we're gonna do it with one of those two, whichever one makes the most sense to us, or is the better deal, or whatever. That's what we're gonna do. But you think about Real Muto, and how important they are. I don't know that he needs a ton of money, and it's not gonna be a 5-year deal. I mean, this
Right.
guy's he's an old catcher,
Yeah,
older catcher. He's an aging catcher. How about that?
sure.
There's still production and everything there, but it's like, you're not talking about a Will Smith deal.
Right.
It's not going to be 10 years and 140 million. It's going to be 2 and 20 tops. So maybe 3 and 20. But I think that I still think that the Phillies are the front runner there, for sure. Now the one thing is, though, they have Zach Wheeler, who's hurt. Their Ranger Suarez became a free agent, so they also need to address some things on the pitching side. So, but I'm sure you'd want JT Real Muto to catch whoever you're bringing in.
Yeah, no doubt. Of course you would. Then Edwin Diaz signs with the Dodgers. There appears to be a little bit of controversy surrounding this, if you will, or maybe it's just made up New York controversy. But 3 for 69. So his average annual value, his AAV, is $23 million a year. There are reports coming out of New York, Jeff, and this is where the potential controversy comes in, that they were offering 3 for 66. And when you get up into that realm, a $3 million difference, first of all, I think is pretty easy to overcome, right? And secondly, but I think it speaks to, $1 million a year means like he really wanted to leave, right? Or maybe he just really wanted to play for a team that he feels has a better chance, since they've won 2 in a row, to win the World Series.
That makes a lot more sense than wanting to leave the Mets. I mean, you never heard of any turmoil with him in the Mets.
No.
And I would think that, I mean, if you can't beat him, join him, right? I mean, and to win the World Series, the New York Mets have to beat the Dodgers.
Yep.
At some point they're going to have to beat them. They couldn't do it 2 years ago in the CS, and didn't even make the playoffs this year.
Right.
So the Dodgers are going to be making the playoffs into perpetuity, it would seem. So that makes a lot of sense. And you kind of look at what the Dodgers had at closer this year. It didn't pan out. They made a big acquisition, Tanner Scott, last offseason. It didn't work out. I mean, Sasaki was closing for them in the postseason.
Right. Yeah.
So this young ballyhooed Japanese starting pitcher, he was their closer. So, you solidify that. If money is no object, and very clearly it is not with that team, then go out and get the best. Make him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah, no doubt. They had 27 blown saves last year, the Dodgers. So he had 28 saves. So, do the math on that one. The Dodgers, they had to fight without home field advantage through 2 rounds of the playoffs, and still won the World Series, by the way. But So yeah, if they had those 28 saves, and that would have meant not 27 blown saves, they would have. Geez, who knows how many wins that team might have had, and they certainly would have had some home field advantage throughout the playoffs in that case. So those are the two big ones, and so I see a lot of people on social media wondering what's happening at the winter meetings. You have to remember, a lot of years there aren't big deals. I think to have these two big deals kind of back to back like that, Jeff, that's a good newsy winter meeting so far.
So far, yeah, we still have a couple days left. So, I mean, there was one year not that long ago when the only deal announced, I think, was the Jackson Cheerio trade.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays introduced Dylan Cease here yesterday, so they're making plenty of news.
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on here, and that's a good thing. We want to get back to that center field. We lose you? We losing Jeff?
I'm not hearing well right now, John.
Not hearing. Okay. Well, see if you can get that taken care of. One other big piece of news that is brewing there, and if it happens there, this will make it an even bigger off season and a bigger winter meetings for news. And that is that the Padres are floating out there, and there are reports that the Padres are set to make the kind of move that would, according to some of their inside sources, that would dwarf the Juan Soto trade. And so that's huge, right? That would be absolutely huge. AJ Preller, you can't put it past him. A guy we know well from his years here with John Daniels and the Rangers, a guy that goes all the way back to being, I think, in the same fraternity with JD in college. They're good friends, but AJ, he is bold in his approach to things, and obviously continues to have the complete support of ownership there. So it'll be really interesting to watch. And you have to think names like Fernando Tatis Jr. obviously become in play if that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. So it'll be really interesting to see if the Padres are able to pull off something like that, the kind of thing that would, like I say, dwarf the Juan Soto deal. That's rare air to get into. And by the way, one quick note on Juan Soto, because of the trade of Edwin, or the loss in free agency of Edwin Diaz, Soto has an out, according to Passan, I believe it was somebody on social media. He has an out in his contract, permanent out, that if the Mets team is not comprised of 39% Latin players, he can get out of the contract. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, first of all, just because Diaz is gone now doesn't mean that they won't have 39% Latin players, or secondly, that Soto would necessarily exercise that out. The point is, he could. So there's an interesting sidebar to that story as well. What happens now with the Mets? Who do they bring back in? And that's, in this day and age, it's a pretty good bet that they're going to have that percentage of Latin players. They just produce so many great players in those Latin American countries. So it's likely that they'll be able to maintain that threshold. It is a very interesting clause, though, in the contract, and it speaks to that the players want to feel comfortable with who their teammates are, right? This is family, and they want to have people that look like them and people that talk like them on their team. So anyway, it's a very interesting thing to consider and to watch as the Edwin Diaz deal has been done, and the Dodgers are going to sign him to a 3-year, $69 million deal, even though the Mets had offered 3 years and $66 million. So anyway, we've got more to talk about as we get to our cleanup segment. Our cleanup segment is coming up right here on the DLLS Rangers podcast. Hey, and we want to remind you to become a diehard if you haven't already. I talked about some of the news that the Cowboys crew was writing about. Very interesting and somewhat salacious with the whole George Pickens thing. So take a deep dive into that if you go behind the paywall and become a diehard today. You can also get that look at the first 25 games of the Dallas Mavericks season. It's really been a bit of a roller coaster, and right now that roller coaster's on the way up, right? I mean, they're playing a little bit better right now, quite a bit better actually, having won 4 out of their last 5 games. So see what Ron Harad has to say about that. See what Sam Nestler has to say about all the stuff. The Stars, the only downside of their season thus far has been the injuries. So always something that every team has to deal with, but they're dealing with it right now. And you know what? Still playing very well in spite of that. So anyway, all that's there, plus what Jeff writes, which is fantastic. Our writers have so much experience in the market, and we've got one for each and every beat, at least one for every beat, 2 for the Cowboy beat, which is more than really any other person, any other outlet that's out there in this marketplace. So become a diehard today. You will not regret the fact that you paid $79.99 to get all that content, 20% off all of our events, 20% off our merchandise. I think you're going to be glad you did it, no matter what the price. Also, you get a free t-shirt if you become a diehard. And look at there, we've got the new hats out. All City headwear is alive and well. And I think Jeff said he's got all 4. I actually may buy one for me and one for my son. Don't tell him, it's going to be his Christmas present, or one of them. But I like that one on the far left there, that black one with the gold leaf and all that stuff. That's pretty cool looking. So that's just one of the things you could get at store.allcitynetwork.com. It's a fantastic place to go to get merchandise. Fantastic place to go to do your Christmas shopping. I've already gotten a couple of things there as gifts for people, and you can go there very easily and do the same. It's relatively inexpensive gear, and it is high quality. I just got one of the hoodies back, and I love the quality and the girth and the size and the warmth of those hoodies. So make sure you go to store.allcitynetwork.com and get any of that or all of that merchandise that's available today. All right, so let's run through our cleanup segment now as we try to make our way towards the top of the hour. Jeff, by the way, has some issues with the ear pods or AirPods, whatever we call them. So we will get back to him if he's able to.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there, Jeff. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, beautiful. So let's start with
those 5 minutes. I was able to get back into double digits on the power, so I should make it through the end of the show.
Got a little more juice back. That's beautiful. So let's quickly mention this USA team. We kind of alluded to it. Gunnar Henderson has, said he will join the team, as will Bryce Terang and Will Smith. Those are some of the announcements today about the Team USA, and our buddy Mark DeRosa there getting ready to manage that team and all of that. But when you think about, like, Gunnar Henderson, Jeff, is going to play third base probably, right? And then Bobby Witt Jr. will play shortstop, and Bryce Terang will be the second baseman. Right now, they don't have necessarily a first baseman. The outfield is stacked. You've got Pete Crow Armstrong, and I can't remember who else is out there, but they're all great. Will Smith, Jeff, he'll be a backup catcher probably to Cal Raleigh. You've got Paul Skeens committed to this thing, Matthew Boyd as pitchers. I mean, this could
Aaron
be
Judge.
Aaron Judge. That's one of the outfielders. Yeah. This could be a stacked team.
Well, it should be. I mean, this is our game, damn it.
It is. And we don't win it, usually. So
yeah. And a lot of, it's kind of like with the foreign teams in the Olympics, the basketball teams, they all play together in all these tournaments and all this stuff. And so there's all the continuity thing. And I don't know, maybe that's why Japan has such the edge. Maybe, and I think they start to train a little bit earlier as well in a typical spring. But whatever, the U.S. needs to win. And Skeens is going to be awesome for 3 innings, and then maybe 4 and then maybe 5.
Yeah.
but the pitches are limited. Need to come up with a kick-ass bullpen and uh, a couple starters here and there, and voila, you're good.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to. I mean, it's shaping up like a little bit of a dream team, which you sure would love to see happen, and let the like you say, this is our game. We invented it, man. We want to make sure we win this thing. So that's pretty cool. One of the other things that's very cool, I know the skipper saw him, Ben. I don't know if you did, but Nelly Cruz and Albert Pujols are together with the Dominican team. Albert, of course, managing. There they are. But this big announcement was separate, and this is really cool. You've got representatives from the Detroit Tigers in that picture as well, because the Tigers are going to play against the Dominican team in Santo Domingo, and that's all a part of a fundraiser, Jeff, after that tragedy last year I think that club was called the Jet Set last March, I think, or early April, when the roof collapsed. And one of the reasons I think the Tigers are involved, Octavio Dotel, the former pitcher, was in that place at the time. There was a concert going on, like hundreds of people were killed, including Octavio Dotel and the merengue performer who was performing at the time. So anyway, that was a huge tragedy, and one of the reasons that they're doing this is a fundraiser to help the families who suffered through that tragedy. And anyway, I love to see Nelly's green jacket there. I think he won the Masters in the meantime too. and he and Albert Pujols kind of spearheading things for that Dominican team.
Well, Albert, of course, has his long list of charitable endeavors. And Nelly, when he was with the Rangers and even beyond, very, very, very kind and generous to the people in the Dominican Republic. He provided, I remember specifically in one instance, he provided basically a fire department.
Wow.
For one town, he gave him a fire truck and an ambulance, so these are good people. I did see Nelly. He stopped and talked to me. Just the nicest guy.
Love Nelly.
And we talked to him last year at the winter meetings. He's just a terrific guy. So I did see Nelly as a highlight. There's a rumor. It's not a rumor. Somebody told me that Ron Washington will be here tomorrow.
Oh, good.
To get to know his new coworkers with the Giants, the coaching staff. I know that deal hasn't been announced yet, but it's finished up, and so Wash is going to get out there and start kicking ass and hitting grounders. And last time we saw him, he just had open heart surgery, so I'm looking to see how he's doing. He told me last week he's getting stronger every day, and I had no doubt that Ron Washington would work his way back into at least fungo hitting shape. So it sounds like he's there, and I really am looking forward to seeing him.
He may hit grounders there in the Gaylord tomorrow, Jeff, just to prove to everybody he can.
I'm telling you, at the shoot, it would have been the 2008 winter meetings. They were in Las Vegas. I'm just this pretty new guy to the beat. I'd only had 1 year, and we're sitting around some blackjack tables. I guess they weren't in. It wasn't a busy enough night to open them up to everybody. And Wash is showing me infield mechanics in the middle of the damn casino, demonstrating.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, Wash. And he's dressed nicely, and he wasn't in a uniform.
Right.
And it was great. It was funny. That guy will hit anybody a ground ball.
Yep.
I'm telling you that right now. And if I think the Giants are coming to town this season. So
good.
Yeah, if my son is struggling, I'm calling up Wash and I'm saying, hey, let's meet at this park and you give me 5 minutes to get my son straightened out, please.
Yeah. That's just fantastic. And it'll be, I hope you will get to see Wash. It'll be great to hear from him if that happens tomorrow. And I think that's just such a smart play on the part of Tony Vitello to, have as many, very experienced people from the world of Major League Baseball on his team when he's never coached at the major league or really even at the professional level, Jeff.
Yeah, yeah, it is smart. Jace Tingler is going to be the bench coach there.
Yeah.
And his ties to the Rangers. He's with the former Padres manager. Got to know Skip Schumacher. Loves Skip Schumacher. I was with the Twins last year. That staff was dismissed, so he lands on his feet in San Francisco in a very interesting situation. I saw Jace earlier, and I said, "Well, you guys are going to be interesting." He goes, "Yeah, interesting is a good word." So, but I mean, Jace works his butt off too.
Yeah, he does.
Lefty throwing BP and all of that stuff. And on the note about the Dominican charity game, Chase in our chat correctly points out that one of Nellie's sisters was one of the victims in that
I forgot
that roof collapse. Yeah,
I forgot about
even more personal ties for Nellie.
Boy, it really hit home. Yeah. Also, with regard to the WBC, I see Aroldis Chapman, Jeff, is going to play for Team Great Britain. So I'm not sure what tie he has to that.
But that's an interesting one. I saw that earlier.
Yeah.
I guess Chapman really sounds like a hey Chap, a good British name, and hey, I don't want to face them in the ninth inning. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, you trace a lot of us back. We might be able to play for Team Great Britain.
Yeah, that's right. I think I could.
A lot of us came from there. So anyway, that was interesting, and we know this. I don't know if Team Great Britain will be any good, although those cricket skills sometimes do translate. But they'll have a dang good closer. There's no doubt, especially if he pitches as well as he has, for the Red Sox last year. So that's just kind of a fun side note to what's happening with the WBC. The Astros are looking for a couple of pitchers, and they got one. Jeff, they signed Ryan Weiss, who he came from the KBO, the Korean baseball. And there have been several Korean players. The Tigers signed a guy from Korea who had been in their organization before as well. I mean, there's quite a few guys from Korea making their way back to the United States this year.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that there's this giant influx. You've seen a lot of guys going the other way too, though. Caleb Bosley among them. I can't remember if Caleb's going to Japan or to Korea, but my point is that there's a lot of moving parts over there, and I still would not be the least bit surprised to see the Rangers land a guy from Japan, a bullpen piece, whether it's somebody an expatriate or whether somebody who's a Japanese guy who wants to come over here and give it a shot. I just always assume that they're going to be involved in that,
Sure.
Because they have such the history and the pipeline over there, and the good staff in place. And I think that talking to a couple of the international guys recently, I think Taiwan is gonna start to come into play here in a few years. I think the talent's getting better there as well.
Okay, that'll be fun to watch. Also today, I think it's 4:30 our time on MLB Network. I'm sure you can catch the lottery, the draft lottery.
Just two doors down. Yeah, it's taking place 2 doors down from where I'm at now.
And just see if the Rangers get lucky there, as the Mavs did last year. They've got a 1.8 chance, 1.8% chance of getting the number one overall pick, Jeff.
Well, cool. All right.
Yeah. No, 1.3. Sorry, I just looked. 1.3.
Well, still, look at those. Yeah, again, if the Mavs can do it, the Rangers can do it.
I'm saying there's a chance. Right? There is a chance that they could get that. So yeah, it's one of those things, and I don't blame baseball. They're just trying to make a thing, right? And so they have this thing every year. So let's make it. I mean, that NBA draft lottery, drawing and who gets what, that's huge. And so, Major League Baseball is trying to sort of duplicate some of that. So Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
the Wings did it. The Wings did it 2 years in a row. McJowers points out it's a heck of a point.
It's a
The
good
Wings
point.
got the number one pick 2 years in a row. So why not the Rangers? It could be their year. So anyway, keep an eye out for that. If they do get the number one pick, we'll be all over it because Jeff's there with the skipper. And you guys, did you go out last night or anything, Jeff? Go get a dinner?
I did not. I got something to go, and I was asleep pretty early. And then my alarm went off at 7. I was like, all right, I'll get enough sleep. And I swear to God, every time I hit snooze, I just, it was like I blacked out, and then all of a sudden it snooze again. So finally, I just said, "The hell with this." I think I got about 11 hours sleep last night.
Oh, nice.
So
good.
I should be. I'm pretty much recovered from that.
All right, good.
Terrible
good
flight saga. Yeah.
Good to go for tonight. All right, very good. That's going to do it for us. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Any news, Jeff will have it with the skipper via social media, and we'll be talking about it again tomorrow. Don't forget, especially if you're watching now, we'll be on at 3 tomorrow again because of the Rule 5 draft taking place tomorrow. So after the draft, we will be here, and if the Rangers do anything in the draft, we'll talk about it. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with us today. We appreciate you as always, and we'll see you again tomorrow on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.